What's going on in the US? Because the Biden administration has rushed to allocate more than $70 billion of funding for climate initiatives before Donald Trump's inauguration. The outgoing administration has been accelerating its allocation of cash for climate change and clean energy programs before the changing presidency. Ian, I'm not sure what the point of it is, because Trump's already pledged to terminate what he calls the Green New Scam. So what exactly is Biden trying to achieve in his dying days in the administration?
Well, the point is very cynical. He's trying to trip up Trump to make his life more difficult. He knows that it can be changed, but this is typically the way the left operates. It's all negative. It's cynical. It's not nation building. It's not helping people. The left traditionally has been wanting to look after people who are at the bottom end of the spectrum, and they're doing the exact opposite. Now, Biden is just making the transition very difficult, despite the fact that he was going to have an orderly transition. So I just think this shows the Democrats are pretty morally defunct, that the Democrats really don't care at all about how people suffer.
No, that's very, very clear. And, looking forward to that inauguration, the sooner the better. Meanwhile, the world's biggest climate finance alliance, which is actually being backed by major asset managers, is suspending its activities and reviewing its structure. The Net Zero Asset Managers Initiative was founded to promote the adoption of greenhouse gas reduction efforts. Ian, what does this tell you?
Well, it tells you that reality sometimes strikes. We're having that globally, that we are aware that we cannot keep industrial societies running on sunbeams and on sea breezes. It's costing too much money. We're aware that we once had a very good system of cheap, reliable electricity that derived from having energy concentration in things like coal or energy concentration in nuclear materials. And all of a sudden, people are saying, well, this is not going to work. And also, we've got a major president who is going to be changing things in the US. Things have already changed in many other parts of the world. It's going to change in the US, and that will drive changes in the world. If you're here in Saudi Arabia and you talk about climate change, it's one of the best jokes you can make. People roar with laughter. So finally, reality is coming home.
Yeah, and I also wonder if it's the Trump effect almost having an impact already before he's even inaugurated.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Now, this is a real laugh. Chris Bowen has been exposed as the most dangerous minister in Albanese's cabinet, because it's been revealed that the energy minister weaponised the public service by instructing his department to produce entirely flawed figures to allege Peter Dutton's nuclear energy plan would see a 49% electricity shortfall by 2035. The Department of Climate Change and Energy now says what it did was not an analysis of the coalition's nuclear energy proposals, but an assumption-driven calculation. So, Ian, these figures, they were a dream, but still pushed out to the public. How are we supposed to have a proper debate about energy in this country when Bowen is feeding us lies?
Well, I'm not surprised. I mean, he's probably the worst cabinet minister in my voting lifetime, and I first voted in 1961. It's a very sad ideologue. He cannot understand that there are dozens of countries that stay alive with nuclear. There are dozens of countries that are increasing their coal-fired power capacity, and yet he wants to stick to his ideology. He wants to cook the books. He wants to force people to cook the books, and he is the very best thing that the Liberals have got in the Albanese government. He just has to stay there. Please, Mr. Bowen, stay in that cabinet position. Keep opening your mouth. Keep giving us the benefit of your wisdom. Keep showing us that you've had a very successful charisma bypass operation. Just keep doing it, please, because you're helping the Liberals.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as much as I want him not to be in that portfolio, Ian, you're spot on. It's probably doing the coalition a favour. Now, look, before we let you go, the warnings are continuing. The Victorian government's aggressive electrification of the power network is likely to result in mass blackouts, with demand forecast to outweigh renewable energy supply by more than 30% in some months. That's according to a report by leading academic Professor Simon Schauser, who runs a Queensland government-owned energy business himself. Ian, how many more warnings do we need? AEMO has said it. We've got multiple reports saying the same thing. We're going broken backward in this country on this renewables energy fantasy, aren't we?
Well, we are. And look back in time a little bit. Victoria had the cheapest electricity in the world. That came from these huge brown coal deposits in eastern Victoria. Those brown coal deposits can keep Victoria going for thousands of years. There is so much coal there, it's such good quality, and the infrastructure was set up in Victoria to make it the powerhouse of Australia, to make it the manufacturing centre of Australia. And it was. Now, if Victoria loses power, that also kills off South Australia, because there's the interconnector bringing power across from Victoria into South Australia. So we now have a domino effect that is set up by bureaucrats and by politicians who know nothing about electricity. We haven't listened to our electrical engineers. And again, reality will strike. And reality is going to be very, very cruel in Victoria.
Yeah, if it isn't already, I completely agree. Ian Plimer, nice to speak with you. Thanks very much for joining me on the show this evening.